Whenever you're ready.
Does anyone have tissue?
I don't. I'm afraid. Wait, let me see.
Oh my God.
I may have one that I use to soak up the blood from my ear, but I don't, you know. You might get that Ebola from me, and I wouldn't want that to happen. Okay.
That's what I'm talking about. Good afternoon. My name is Judd COF, and I'll be talking about pop music today. Now let me lay down a definition of pop music that I hope we can all agree on, since it's such a overused and broad term. Pop music is music that has wide appeal and is often characterized by its simplicity and its catchiness. EDM, rock, rap, and country can all fall under the category of pop music, according to how much mainstream appeal it has. Now with that said, my anaconda don't want none, unless you got buns, hun. That is a quote from Nicki Minaj on her new single Anaconda, and that song is currently number 5 on the Billboard's Hot 100. It plays all across the nation on public radio stations. It's very readily accessible. And who here listens to the radio? Who listens to like public radio, not necessarily like internet, Pandora, when you're driving in your car? Yeah, so it's such a readily accessible form of entertainment. You can understand that all age groups have access to that. And KISS FM, there's no parental warnings on radio stations, most of them. And they don't say, oh, we got lyrical content that's going to be a bit explicit. They censor out the words, but you can kind of get a general meaning if you listen close enough. My claim is that 21st century pop music is actually detrimental to American youth because it promotes a variety of themes that are adult-like in content and are socially unacceptable. My first example is the unregulated amount of explicit sexual content in pop music today. Who here likes Bruno Mars? Just the way you are. Yeah. So he's known for, his first album, he was known for his cheerfulness and his light ballads and his, beautiful crooning, his flirtation with women. But in his second album, he decided to take a more mature route. And in the song Gorilla, he details his sexual exploits with a lover. And he does little to euphemize everything that happens in that song. And a lot of Bruno Mars's fans are young kids that are used to listening to Just the Way You Are, a lot of his cuter songs, and they've transitioned and they hear, oh, Bruno Mars has a new song on the radio, and they check it out, and it's you and me, baby, making love like gorillas. According to a study in the Official Journal of American Pediatrics, the more importance adolescents give to a certain type of music, the more attention they will pay to the lyrics. And furthermore, young listeners might not understand all the details in the lyrics, but they recognize enough to obtain the general idea of the message that they bring. Therefore, you cannot necessarily argue that they are too young to understand what's going on. Second is the amount of openly misogynistic lyrics. Has anyone heard the song Blurred Lines by Robin Thicke? Robin Thicke spent 10 weeks at #1 on Billboard Hot 100, and that song was performed with T.I. and Pharrell, who are also very renowned pop artists. And that song is about date rape, i.e. the blurred lines. And so, according to a study by researchers at Brigham Young University, popular music can teach young men to be sexually aggressive and treat women as objects, while often teaching young women that their value to society is to provide sexual pleasures for others. Now, this concept is being passed through subconsciously to the youth of America. And that's quite unfortunate because we're hoping to have a more progressive society, and misogynistic values shouldn't be tolerated. Lastly is the promotion of drugs and alcohol. According to a study conducted by the University of Pittsburgh School of Medicine, they examined the top 279 songs on Billboard, and they discovered that 33% included explicit substance abuse references. This isn't just talking about alcohol, like, oh, there's a beer, or oh, like talking about going, it's abuse, using it. And the majority of these songs link substance abuse with positive sexual, financial, and emotional rewards. That is what's being passed down to children and kids that are listening to these songs. For example, We Can't Stop by Miley Cyrus. She references, a reckless party lifestyle and taking Molly, which is a very powerful drug. A lot of her fans have transitioned from the Hannah Montana phase and have followed her into her current music, and she has led that kind of example. Therefore, to any young, impressionable mind, the current pop music themes of sex, misogyny, drugs, and binge drinking can have a dangerous impact, especially when promoted in such a positive fashion.
All right, Judd, it takes you a while to get to the proposition. You've got a long introduction. It's a minute and a half before you actually get to the proposition. And I think you usually want to get there a little quicker so that your argument's going to have more time to develop. When you got to that proposition, though, it was clearly stated, so I thought that that was fine. The secondary claims sound a little bit like they are phrased sometimes as claims of fact, sometimes as claims of value. So you need to make sure that you fall on the side that they are claims of fact, that pop music is likely to induce this dangerous behavior. Pop music is going to create this concept of acceptance, that sort of thing. So make it a cause-effect kind of statement, and then you won't have that sort of morality issue that is fine for a different kind of argument, but not for this particular assignment. I did think that you had a clear preview. Like I said, it's just that some of the phrasing on those points seemed to be a little off of the way we were going to work on this. The secondary claims, when you present them, you label them pretty clearly. I thought the transitions were fine. You move from one idea to the next pretty well. You start off with some examples, and the Nicki Minaj song I am not familiar with. I'm perfectly happy to say, that's it. But I have no doubt that you have accurately described the lyrics in that situation. The question then becomes, who is hurt or harmed or offended by this? And you say, well, little kids are listening to this, and then there's one of the places that you did have a piece of testimony to support your argument is a study that basically comes down to kids get the point of what's being talked about there. So what's wrong with kids listening to the radio getting the point that Nicki Minaj is talking about sex in this particular way? And so you're going to need to have an argument that says that premature exposure, sexualizes them too early in their life. It makes it more likely that they're going to engage in premarital relationships when they are not yet able to make those kinds of decisions, that the role models are going to influence those, and then you're going to need to have some proof on those points. And so that felt a little bit thin. But I did appreciate, like I said, that you cited the one study. It was a little bit vague in the citation. That, I think, could be sharper. On point number 3, you also were citing a study. This one I thought was also needed to be cited a little bit more specifically, but one of the things that is problematic is that you are paraphrasing or summarizing what the study says instead of giving us direct quotes. In essence, it's like you are using your inferences as their testimony, and that's not the case. You need to tell us what their testimony is, what the inference is that you draw from that, and then we can decide whether or not you have reasoned appropriately. Hang on a second. All right, so the evidence I thought was maybe a little bit thin. There was no statistical evidence. I thought the generalization was okay, but you know, I've heard the same kinds of. To be honest, I've heard the same kinds of arguments since I was 5. You know, oh, the Beatles are going to ruin the country. You know, the hippies are going to ruin the country. Kiss is going to ruin the country. Marilyn Manson is going to screw this all up. Heavy metal is going to result in this. New wave music is going to have this particular heart. Rap music is going to lead us all to hell in a handbasket. You name it, there's always another one of those things on the horizon. So the question is there any data from popular culture or the social system that indicates that these things are a problem? You need to get that into the speech. And I think that there is some data that talks about those kinds of things. You know, whether it is unwanted teenage pregnancies, whether it is the consumption of drugs, like you mentioned, Hannah Montana or Miley Cyrus, you know, is singing this song about taking Molly and partying and that sort of thing. Have we had a spike in Molly consumption amongst preteens or recent preteens, you know, that something like that? If we had any data like that, it would be easier to believe that there's a relationship there. All right, and I think that you do a good job delivering the speech. I like that. You build a lot of credibility because you seem to know what your argument is. You're pretty confident in expressing it to us, and you've got an interesting way of speaking. That works well. You actually have a very good exit line, but you don't deliver it very well, and nobody knew that you were done. You know, so I like the exit line. Now you had a quick comment because we don't have a lot of time.
The first thing that you said when you said, what was the thing that you said?
I don't know. You'll have to come back and listen to it.
Anyway, on the third thing where you said I paraphrased, I actually made the mistake of inserting my own, like, I said something, but then I continued the quote.
Yeah. Well, that's like I said. We want the direct quote, and then you can tell us what your argument is. Actually, it should go the other way. Tell us what your argument is, and then here's what the research says on this sort of thing. Okay. All right.